September 1944, London. Two reports land on Winston Churchill's desk within the same hour. One describes 10,000 British casualties in 9 days for a bridge that was never taken. The other details 12 cities captured, 45,000 enemy prisoners marched into captivity, and an army racing toward Germany's border with half the fuel. One commander had been given everything. The other had been given scraps. And what Churchill does after reading those pages will shake the Allied command to its core. If you think World War II was only decided by bullets and bombs, wait until you see how it was nearly torn apart by comparison. Before we go further, make sure you hit like and subscribe to WW2 Silent Valor right now. If you love deep cinematic breakdowns of real wartime decisions that changed history, this channel is built for you. And trust me, this story only gets more explosive from here. It is September 25th, 1944. 10 Downings. Street is unusually quiet. It's like the war rooms beneath Westminster have not felt this calm since the darkest nights of the Blitz. France has been liberated. Allied armies are pressing toward the Rhine River. For the first time since 1939, victory feels tangible. Churchill stands beside a map table, tea cooling in his hand, staring at colored pins marking Allied advances. Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery's ambitious plan, Operation Market Garden, has been underway for 8 days. The promise was breathtaking: seize a chain of bridges across the Netherlands, leap the Rhine in one bold strike, and end the war by Christmas. Montgomery had demanded absolute priority: fuel, trucks, airborne divisions, air cover, everything. Churchill had agreed. An aide enters, pale, carrying a folder marked urgent. Churchill opens it slowly. His expression changes. The cup of tea never reaches his lips. "How many?" he asked quietly. "Approximately 10,000 casualties, sir. The 1st Airborne Division at Arnhem, nearly destroyed. The bridge was not secured. 10,000 British casualties in just over a week. For a bridge still flying the swastika." Churchill does not shout. He does not curse. He simply places the folder down with deliberate care and turns toward his chief of staff, General Hastings Ismay. "Where's Patton?" Ismay points to the map. 200 miles south in eastern France, General George S. Patton's Third Army is advancing toward the German frontier. "Get me the fuel allocation reports," Churchill says. "Montgomery's and Patton's, I want to see exactly what we gave them." Within minutes, so the numbers are spread across the table. Montgomery's 21st Army Group, 1,400 tons of fuel per day, absolute logistical priority, the largest airborne operation in history. Patton's Third Army, 700 tons per day, half. The results are brutal in their clarity. In 9 days, Montgomery advanced roughly 64 miles into Holland, suffered 10,000 casualties, and failed to secure the crucial Arnhem Bridge. The 1st Airborne Division was shattered. In those same 9 days, Patton captured 12 fortified cities: Nancy, Lunéville, Château-Salins, and others. He crossed the Moselle, the Meurthe, and the Mortagne under fire. He advanced roughly 60 miles through defended territory. He captured 45,000 German prisoners. His casualties, approximately 2,100. Churchill removes his glasses, rubs his eyes, and reads the figures again. "Tell me I'm mistaken," he says softly. "You are not, Prime Minister," Ismay replies. Churchill walks to the map. Every major supply route snakes north toward Montgomery. Every truck, every gallon, every priority shipment. Meanwhile, Patton had been complaining for weeks that he was being starved of fuel. "Get me General Eisenhower," Churchill says. The secure line connects to Supreme Headquarters in Versailles. General Dwight D. Eisenhower takes the call. "Ike," Churchill begins, voice clipped, "explain to me why we authorized an operation that consumed our entire logistical capacity and delivered us the bloodiest week since Normandy." Eisenhower answers carefully. "Market Garden," he explains, "was a calculated risk. Intelligence suggested German forces in the north were collapsing. Montgomery believed a concentrated thrust could end the war before winter. I know what the plan was, Churchill interrupts. What I need to understand is why Patton is capturing cities with half the fuel while Montgomery buries paratroopers. Eisenhower tries to frame the difference. Patton's sector faces lighter opposition, and the Rhine crossings are more formidable. 45,000 prisoners is not light opposition, Churchill snaps. Those are divisions. Divisions that might have reinforced Arnhem had Patton not destroyed them. There's a long pause on the line. Montgomery believes with renewed resources he can achieve a breakthrough toward the Ruhr, Eisenhower says. More resources? Churchill's voice rises. After this? He lowers it again, icy calm. Tell Field Marshal Montgomery the Prime Minister would very much like to understand how absolute priority produced absolute disaster. Within 24 hours, the story leaks. British newspapers run headlines about Arnhem's losses. The questions flood Parliament. Why did Montgomery receive everything while Patton was restricted? Why did British paratroopers die while American armor surged forward? Letters arrive from grieving families. Why did my son die for a bridge we do not have? At Versailles, Montgomery demands a private meeting with Eisenhower. For hours, he defends the operation, the weather, intelligence failures, unexpected SS Panzer divisions near Arnhem. He insists the plan would have succeeded with more time, more support. Meanwhile, General Omar Bradley submits a carefully worded request. Third Army can reach the Rhine within days if given adequate fuel. Current tempo demonstrates sustained offensive capability. The final line circulates like wildfire. We are winning a war with our hands tied while others lose it with both hands free. Patton reads the memo and smiles. On October 1st, 1944, Churchill flies to France without warning. He arrives at Allied headquarters in Versailles, carrying a bound report compiled by the War Office. British and American generals gather in a conference room heavy with tension. Churchill opens the document and reads aloud. Operation Market Garden. Fuel allocation, 1,400 tons per day. Casualties, 10,000. Strategic objective not achieved. Third Army operations during the same period. Fuel allocation, 700 tons per day. Casualties, approximately 2,100. Cities captured, 12. Enemy prisoners, 45,000. How is this possible? Churchill asks the room. Silence. He announces he will tour both sectors personally. The next day in Eindhoven, the wreckage of Market Garden tells its own story. Burned gliders litter fields. Destroyed tanks line what soldiers now call Hell's Highway. Temporary graves stand in rows. Montgomery greets Churchill with stiff formality. As they drive north, Montgomery explains the intelligence failure. In the presence of the 9th and 10th SS Panzer divisions near Arnhem had not been confirmed. You were warned, Churchill says quietly. Resistance reports were inconclusive. Inconclusive intelligence cost us 4,500 airborne troops dead or captured. They stop at Nijmegen Bridge, the furthest Allied success. Beyond lies Arnhem, the bridge too far. Across the Rhine, German vehicles move freely over the intact span. A bridge too far, Montgomery says. Churchill stares across the water. I suspect it was not the bridge that was too far, he replies, but the ambition without the ability. The following day, Churchill visits Patton's sector near Nancy. The contrast is startling. Roads are cleared. Civilians emerge cautiously. American engineers repair infrastructure with efficiency. Patton greets him energetically. When Churchill asks about casualties, Patton shrugs. Acceptable, Mr. Prime Minister. We keep moving. They cannot hit what they cannot catch. He spreads his maps. 12 cities marked secured. Rivers crossed. Enemy divisions shattered. Churchill returns to headquarters with a verdict forming. In a tense meeting, he confronts Montgomery directly. You had priority. You had supply. You had elite troops. Patton had half and produced victory. Simplify it for me. Why did you fail? I did not fail, Montgomery insists. He argues that Market Garden drew German forces north. The territorial gains were significant. You lost 10,000 men, Churchill says evenly, for a river you did not cross. The room, this feels suffocating. Churchill makes his decision clear. He will recommend increased fuel allocation to Third Army. Montgomery will not be dismissed, politically impossible, but his strategy of single thrust priority is finished. The broad front approach becomes policy. No more absolute preference. Within days, Patton receives additional fuel. By mid-October, his army pushes closer to the German border. By November, Third Army stands poised before the Siegfried Line. Montgomery's forces spend autumn clearing the Scheldt estuary to open Antwerp. Vital, yes, but unglamorous. The momentum has shifted south. In December 1944, Hitler launches his desperate gamble, the Battle of the Bulge. German forces smash through the Ardennes. Bastogne is surrounded. At an emergency meeting, Montgomery estimates weeks to organize a counteroffensive. Patton studies the map. I can attack in 48 hours. Eisenhower stares at him. You would have to pivot your entire army 90 degrees. Already planned it, Patton replies. Within 72 hours, Third Army turns north through snow and ice. It reaches Bastogne and breaks the siege. One of the most astonishing redeployments in military history. Churchill writes privately that Patton moves like lightning. Montgomery plans like a lawyer. By the war's end in May 1945, Third Army has advanced over 600 miles from Normandy, capturing hundreds of thousands of prisoners. Patton's forces race so far into Czechoslovakia that Eisenhower orders them to halt to avoid colliding with Soviet troops. Montgomery's army advances methodically through northern Germany. History would judge both men complexly. Montgomery was cautious, meticulous, strong on defense. Patton was aggressive, relentless, instinctive. But in September 1944, with fuel scarce and victory within sight, one comparison changed everything. Churchill had seen the numbers. He had walked the battlefields. He had looked across the Rhine at a bridge still in enemy hands. Resources do not guarantee victory. Leadership decides how they are used. And that realization reshaped Allied strategy in the final year of the war. If this story kept you hooked, let me know in the comments. Who do you think was the better commander, Montgomery or Patton, and why? And tell me where you're watching from. I read as many comments as I can. If you want more deep cinematic breakdowns like this, share this video with a fellow history fan and subscribe to WW2 Silent Valor. Because sometimes the most decisive battles of a war are not fought with rifles, but with decisions made over a map table in a quiet room. And the consequences echo for generations, or